I'm back with another episode, and before it starts, I have to say a few things. First, Ace is one of my favorite MCs, and I rediscovered his music maybe a decade ago. I listened to him back in the day, but I have really enjoyed his catalog in recent years. If you can't tell from the podcast, I really enjoy people's stories, and he's one of the best storytellers in the game. Second, he's already been really generous with his time, and I didn't go back and ask for copyright permissions that would let me use his music in this episode. I've linked to some of my favorite songs and albums in the show notes. You might really enjoy going on YouTube and finding his Tiny Desk concert too. All right, let's do this. Today I'm excited to have one of my favorite MCs with me, Masta Ace, to talk about his home being on the mic. Ace, welcome to My Home is Special.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to get into this conversation.
Yeah, so let's start with a quick introduction for people listening. As a longtime fan, I know you as an MC. However, I've seen different sides of you in glimpses on social media and online. So can you just introduce yourself for those listening?
I'm Masta Ace, originally from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. I am a college grad. I am a recording artist who's been in the music business for over 30 years. I've put out 14 albums, I think, over the span of those 30 years. I'm a husband, a father. I have a daughter in college. I'm most recently become a playwright, but I am a songwriter, music producer, and MC.
I usually ask people how we know each other, but I wouldn't put you on the spot like that. You know, I've seen you perform a couple times in Chicago, and I went back and checked since you agreed to do this. And the first time was actually in 2013 at a spot that's closed called The Shrine. And then you came back 6 years later in 2019 before COVID to perform at the Silver Room Block Party, which was actually like literally right up the street from my house. It was about as block party as a block party gets. And then,
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic show. And then we stayed in touch online, and you were one of the first people that agreed to help with my COVID project, the I Am project. And I was so grateful for that. And then I've seen you online talking about you were doing college visits. So I just reached out and was like, hey, we recruited a lot of the schools it looked like you're taking your family to. Do you need help like meeting anybody on campus or anything like that? And I have to ask you, am I the only person that just sort of sees you online and pretends like we know each other and just reaches out to you like we go way back?
Nah, people do that. People do a lot more than that, believe me. It's because social media kind of makes you feel like you know the person. It feels like they're a friend in your head. And because I'm super engaging with people who reach out, they feel even more so like they know me because I respond. I'll crack a joke here or there. As long as people are respectful, it's all good. And if somebody's saying something that's positive or they're saying something that they just want to tell me about an album or a song or whatever it is, I try to give them a response, even if it's just an emoji, but it's just to and people just appreciate even a thumbs up or a heart or a fist, whatever you may be able to, whatever emoji you can send their way. People appreciate it.
I completely agree. I know I did. And it was part of the reason when I saw you were doing college visits, I wanted to reach out because I was like, man, I've been listening to your music for so long. I was like, man, if I could help him out in some way, that would be dope. And I like when people do that online with me and figured I'd pay it forward. So I appreciate you reaching back and appreciate you being here today. So thanks again.
Well, I appreciate you just kind of throwing your hat in the ring to help me and my family figure out what school my daughter was going to attend. And Princeton was one of the schools that were at the top of her list. And you gave us at least some good feedback and guidance on when we were going to go on that visit, even though we didn't get a chance to see a son on that visit. But it's still just going there, knowing that somebody on campus that we kind of know or indirectly know made the visit that much more comfortable.
Cool. Well, I know she's doing well in school, and I'm really glad to hear that. So let's get into the rest of this. I've heard many parts of the story in different interviews, but can you talk about the first taste you got of being an MC on the mic? What was your earliest exposure? You've been in the presence of some OGs for sure, but when did you first get on the mic and get that experience?
So in terms of on the mic, like in front of people, because we used to, when I was in high school, we would rap during lunch, banging on the lunchroom table, rapping, and everybody would, guys on the football team. I was on a football team, so there's a few guys on the team that rapped, and there were guys that just went to the school that rapped. So we would kind of get into these little ciphers at the lunchroom table rapping and cracking jokes and stuff like that. And but in terms of like getting on, my holding a mic in my hand in front of people, it probably would have been my senior year at the school talent show.
Mm-hmm.
Me and four other teammates created this hip hop group called the Come Alive Five, and we had the leather blazers like Run DMC and the shell toe Adidas, and we went on stage and we did a routine like a rap, a joint, and we won. But that was my first time kind of being on stage in front of people. But I was up there with my teammates. It was really comfortable. I
Right.
knew everybody
Right.
because it was my school, so I knew we were popular because we played football, right? So that was pretty smooth, easy way to kind of have my first experience. But my first true experience when I stepped on the stage by myself was actually the very next time that I stepped on the stage, which was 2 years later, sophomore year of college. I was home for Christmas break, and a good friend of mine, Scooter, who also rapped, told me that he was going to go into this rap contest at a skating rink in Queens, New York. And I met him on the train, and we rode up there on the train. And that night, there were probably 32 MCs or artists that
Mm-hmm.
were performing, trying to compete for this prize. And I was just one of those 32. And I stepped up on stage. To this day, I don't know what gave me. Why was I so calm,
Mm-hmm.
confident? Maybe because I knew what I wrote or what I had to rap was different than everything else, everything anybody else was doing. I was sitting there watching every act, and everybody was kind of doing the same thing. They were rapping off Tila Rock is yours, and they were talking about them. They were just talking about being a dope MC,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what we all did in those days.
It's just
But
battle rap. It's just.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, but I had decided that I was going to do kind of more of a story rap, or something that was kind of took you on a little bit of a journey, and it was very much inspired by Slick Rick, Lottie Dottie,
Mm-hmm.
about a girl, and just really fun story that kind of takes you through the story, and it has a fun ending. And so I just got up there very confidently in front of a room full of people that I did not know. I had like maybe three or four of my friends were with me, but nobody else in that room that I knew. And I got up there and I did my raps, and the reaction to the audience, the overwhelming response to my story and the surprise ending to the story and everything, that was the moment that I kind of felt that first moment of validation as an MC, and made me kind of feel like, yo, I got something here. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was we won the contest at high school. That was cool. When I rap in the lunchroom and in my neighborhood, people said I was good. But now I'm in front of people that I don't know.
Right. These aren't friends and family.
Right, and they're giving me feedback. And so that night, I ended up winning that contest, and that was the night that I knew that I had something. That's probably when I fell in love with getting up there and doing it.
Right. Now, you had been on the symphony, I think you said, after you graduated college in 1988. But when did it click for you that this could actually be a career? Because you were in school and presumably were heading towards a career of some sort. And
Yeah,
then you took a different turn and went down a different path.
yeah. I had just gotten my degree in marketing, emphasis on advertising. My plan was to, when I got out of college, to go and try to work at one of these advertising agencies in New York City on Madison Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I knew a few of the big companies. The plan was to submit my resume to a bunch of these different advertising agencies and try to get a gig. But that same year that I graduated, I'd already been working with Marley since my sophomore year. So it's about 2 years of working with Marley. Because first prize was 6 hours of studio time with Marley Marl, which was
Oh,
time was a well-known producer. So
oh, yeah. That's dope.
so
It's better than
so yeah,
cash.
yeah. So that was that was the first prize that kind of got me that first kind of look in the business of music.
Mm-hmm.
And so working on demos with Marley led to him deciding to put two of those demos on his album. He had a compilation album called Marley in Control Volume 1. I had two songs on that album. Of course, I was featured on a song called The Symphony, which is the third song that I was on that album. And that was the song that actually put me,
Mm-hmm.
on the map as far as people knowing my name.
Right.
But the plan was, even after The Symphony came out, I was getting a lot of feedback from my mother, who didn't understand why I wasn't going on job interviews every day. Like she didn't. She's like, "Where's the resume?
Right.
What's going on? Like you got your degree, you've been out for 6 months, 8 months. What's happening?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I won that contest, and I've been going up to this guy Marley Marl's house working on some music, and everybody that's signed to Marley or down with Marley, they're getting record deals.
Right.
So I feel like I'm next in line. So I just want to see where it goes. It wasn't like I had put my academic dreams on complete hold. It was just like, let me just ride this little wave and see what happens, right? And my mother really wasn't feeling that. She was not understanding it. I'm going out all day to the next day working on music,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so we kind of had reached a point where she kind of gave me an ultimatum, and it was one particular day that I had to leave the house early. Like I didn't even go in the kitchen, and my mother used to leave notes on the refrigerator. There were like lists of things to do because what she wasn't going to have is her 22-year-old son floating around the house, sleeping to all times of day,
Right.
going and hanging out with his friends, coming back, eating all the food, and not doing anything.
Right. We don't
So
play that.
yeah, so she would give me these lists, and it would be stuff like get the clothes out the cleaners, buy a carton of eggs, wash the dishes, clean the bathroom. Like it'd be like stuff like that.
Right.
And so this particular day, I was in a hurry to get out of the house. I don't even know where I was going. It probably had something to do with the studio. I didn't even go in the kitchen. So took my shower. I was out the door. Little did I know there was a list of things on that refrigerator. So when I came home, which wasn't until the next day, because I
Oh.
went to Marley's crib and we recorded all night. Woke up the next morning, recorded some more. Came back the next night,
Oh.
and there was a note on the refrigerator saying, "I want you out by your birthday."
Wow.
That was her way of, I believe, trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, she's sacrificed a lot just for me to get this college degree, you know, student loans, the whole 9 yards. Like she actually put her academic goals on hold until I got out. Like after I graduated, then she went back for her degree. So she put a lot of things on hold, and here I was just running around New York City with my friends and hanging out with girls, and who knows what the hell I was doing. But what she did know was that I wasn't going on any job interviews, and
Right.
she had a problem with that. So she put that note there saying, I need you out by your birthday. This was like 89. And I was really coming up on that deadline of my birthday. It just so happened that right before my birthday, I got my album deal and I got my
Wow.
advance. I got $25,000.
Wow.
And that's the most money that I had ever gotten at one time in my entire life. I got an apartment in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn, or Clinton Hill
Mm-hmm.
section of
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, which was my very first apartment. Moved out of my mother's house, and I don't think she thought that it was going to work out that way. I think she
Mm-hmm.
thought that she was going to get my attention. I was going to snap out of it, and I was going to start doing what I needed to
Right.
do.
You'd have a job by your birthday, which you did.
Maybe, or at least some interviews, at least something promising happening.
Right.
Um, but it worked in a different way, and I still look back at that and realize that what she was trying to do was help me.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm the age that I am, and I see young guys in their 20s sleeping on mama's couch trying to chase the rap dream, and I know just how fleeting the rap dream can be, I would give them the same advice that my mother was trying to give me, which is you got to figure out another plan. If music works out, make it your plan B. If it works out, it works out. If not, you got to have something else to do, because honestly, I at least had a degree, and I could, if music didn't work out, if I was whack, if I was terrible, right, and the album, nobody gave me an album deal, I was just gonna go start putting on a shirt and tie and going to interviews, and I was gonna still be okay. A
Right.
lot of these guys, they don't even have that to fall back on.
No safety net. Yep.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was quite a journey, and like a lot of black moms, she was going to do what it took to get your attention and make sure you were going to be okay in the long run.
Yep, that's a fact.
So, Ace, I want to talk about some of the aspects of being on the mic or being a recording artist that are special for you and make you feel like you're at home. And you already talked and mentioned that you had been on the football team. And when we were preparing for this, you mentioned that getting ready for a show feels a little bit like game day. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means to you?
Yeah, I've always viewed the stage the same way that I viewed the football field, with the crowd out there waiting and the DJ doing the introduction and getting ready to run out on that field and perform for the fans. And so when I'm backstage, you would think I'm going out to play a game. I'm doing jumping jacks, I'm doing rope skips. I got my what I call flares, like different armbands and
Mm-hmm.
things that match my outfit, and sweatbands, headbands, hats. I got all this stuff on, do rags. I put a bunch of stuff on, and it reminds me of getting dressed to go play a game. And those moments in the locker room, nobody can see you. You're just in there. Everybody's outside, out there in the crowd, in the stands, and you're in the back getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting yourself psyched up and you're getting yourself ready, trying to remember your plays, remember what you need to do, different things that your coach told you, and you're getting your mind in that space. That's why I really don't like when there's too many people backstage that
Mm-hmm.
aren't part of my entourage, because you get fans and stuff that maybe have all access, and they're backstage and they want to ask you questions
Right.
and they want to take pictures with you and all of this crazy stuff. And I'm trying to get into game mode and they're throwing me off. And so a lot of times I'll just tell people, like, listen, I'll take all the pictures you want after the
After.
show,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to get into my space. And I go into my head, I do my little stretches, I do my rope skips, I do my jumping jacks just to get my blood flowing through my body, so that when I run out there, I'm already not out of breath, but my heart rate is up and my breathing is up from the time I step out there. I've learned that if I go out there without doing that, that in the first two songs or so, I'm hyperventilating, trying to catch my breath, because I haven't gotten my heart rate up.
Yeah, because
So
you
it's
you move. I've seen
yeah, I
you
move a
perform a
lot.
couple times. You move. You're not standing there on the mic, sitting in a chair.
Yeah, I
You.
move around a lot. I utilize the stage to my advantage, and I engage with the audience. I'm looking at people's faces. I'm trying to get eyes that are paying attention to me, and I'm pointing at people and letting them know that I see you the same way you see me. And people respond to that. Most people respond to that. Some people get a little nervous when you look at them and they like look down or away. They kind of get shy and or whatever, but that's okay too. Point is that I'm up here. I'm not scared of you. I know you're not scared of me. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that that connection with the fans is another special part of being on stage for you. And, there's a lot of shows, there's a lot of people there, but people
Yeah.
lock in. When I saw you perform at the block party, people were locked in and paying attention to you. What's that connection feel like from your side of the engagement?
It feels great. It feels like all the hard work in the studio, all the late nights is paying off in that moment that you're up there and people are looking at you and listening to everything you're saying and responding to you and call and response. All of that lets me know that they're with me, that I got them, that they're with me, that we're on the same page, and we're on this little journey, whether it be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour, that we're going to be on this journey together. We're going to have a good time together. I show people I'm up here having fun. Y'all should have fun too.
Yeah.
Why stand out there and not have fun? Let's rock. Let's have a good time. And so that's one of the things that I really look forward to. It's where I feel very much at home, is up there on that stage with that audience that is paying attention to me.
And you talk about how you try and come out already warmed up and ready to go and how you're getting ready for game day. Do you think a lot about your attire and what you're wearing for every show? I've seen guys come up in hoodies and I've seen people come up in matching
Man,
outfits. Like, where are you on that spectrum?
if you're I'm at the furthest end of getting dressed. Anytime I'm stepping on a stage, everything is thought out.
Mm-hmm.
There's color schemes thought out. When I used to perform with Wordsworth and Strickland, as EMC, we had color schemes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what color are we going to wear tonight? All right, and everybody would follow the color scheme, but they would make it their own. You could
Right.
do what you wanted within that color scheme. Didn't matter what type of clothes you had on, as long as it matched in whatever color scheme we decided to do. I carried that forward. I mean, I was always, even before we started doing color schemes, I was always. I remember traveling to Europe early in the 2000s, and I got like 10 jerseys in my bag and five different pair of sneakers and 8 jeans. My bag used to be overweight like crazy. I'd have to pay extra to get my
Right.
bags over. I've learned how to pack now, and that's why having a color scheme makes life a lot easier, because now you're not just grabbing stuff to perform in. Now I'm okay. The color is black and white, so I'm only packing stuff for the stage that's either black or white or both,
Right.
and that's allowed me to pack a little bit lighter. It took me years to kind of like perfect how to pack for a tour, but what I wear on stage is very well thought out. Anytime I step up there, I go through the process of, okay, I got to pack these things for my wrists and arms. I got to pack these socks, these particular shoes,
Mm-hmm.
this shirt or jersey or whatever, and this. I mostly perform in shorts. I prefer, even in the winter, I perform in shorts. I just like the looseness of shorts as opposed to heavy jeans or sweats.
Yeah.
I don't feel as loose as I do when I have shorts on. So
It,
I always perform in shorts.
it's always clean. And I didn't pick up on the color scheme, but I remember seeing you in Words at the Shrine, and it was black and red that night.
There
And
you go.
when I was listening to the Olympics breaking battles, one of the announcers was talking about how just looking fresh is part of the culture
It is.
and
It is.
coming out correct.
And that connection to the color scheme, it goes back to sports and the uniform and everybody on
Yeah.
the team dressed the same, and not dressed the same in terms of like same jersey, but the color. So everybody knows, everybody up there, they all kind of they got the same colors on, so we know that they're part of a
They're
team,
part of
part of
the
a family.
team. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you about this part of being on stage was, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier, and how well thought out your shows are. But even though you have songs in mind for the show, you do make it a priority to create something special for your audience. And if people were to go on tour with you or see you one year to the next year, you might do the same songs, but the show would still feel different. Can you talk a little bit about how being on the mic allows you to inject some creativity and sort of keep creating even after the songs are recorded and done?
Yeah, I found that the shows that I've gone to as a fan, as a spectator, I already know the song. I've heard the song before. I have the album. I know the song. But what else can you do within that song to make it special, to make it different? And so I work very hard at changing up my show, my song setups, and I change them from year to year. New project, new album, new show.
What
As soon as new album drops, I'm creating a new show.
what is a song setup? You mentioned it. We talked about it earlier, but can you describe that for people who may not be familiar with that term?
Yeah, so the way I do my shows, I'm kind of telling you a story or taking you on a journey throughout the show. And so if there's a particular song coming up, I'm going to talk to you about whatever the topic is, whatever story I'm telling, or whatever narrative I'm giving you. And in some cases, it's a true and real narrative. In some cases, I just make it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling the story that leads you to me saying a particular phrase that my DJ knows when he hears that phrase, bring the song in. And so I've done so many different song setups
Right.
for the same song over the years, because I get bored after, I might do a same song setup for 2 or 3 years, but then it's like, all right, time to retire that song setup and let's try something else.
Right.
And so yeah, I mix it up, man. I try to really bring something new. So there are people in Europe that have seen me, in some countries that have seen me 4, 5, 6, 7 times, have seen me live, and they come up to me after the show. It's man, this is my sixth time seeing you, and it's always different. It's always something different. That that makes me feel good. That makes me know that these little efforts that I'm making are connecting with people, and that people appreciate it.
As we come to the end of our time, I wanted to get into two of the more personal aspects of being on the mic that are special to you. When we talked, the first thing you told me was that being on the mic was therapeutic for you. And as I've listened to your work, I know that storytelling is what stands out to me and separates you from a lot of other MCs that I listen to. I can't always listen to you in the background because I want to pay attention, right? I want to hear the story. I want to hear the details. I want to hear all the things that you're talking about, whether it's block episode, which probably took me 2 or 3 times to really, I was like, wait, what did he just say? Or a whole album like The Falling Season. But it feels like they're more than just stories for you. So let's talk about what you mean when you say being on the mic is therapeutic and special in that way.
Well, the lyrics since 2000, I mean, really my whole career, but even more so since 2001, which was my album Disposable Arts,
Mm-hmm.
I started to really share with the audience and the listener kind of what was going on in my head. So I'm not just rapping about being dope, being the best, braggadocio, which is part of hip hop. That's part
Yep.
of what MCs do. But I kind of had matured at that point to where I felt like I needed to bring something more than just braggadocio to the table. And so I started to really speak more directly about the reality that was my career. I wanted people to know that I see the same things that they see when they look at me as an artist. Like I see those things too, and I know what people are thinking and saying. I have songs like No Regrets. I
Hmm.
have songs like Dear Diary. I have songs like Son of Yvonne, where I'm telling people about my mother and my grandmother, two of the most influential people in my entire life, and shaped who I became as a man. When I perform these different songs, Young Black Intelligent is another one that speaks to who I was growing up in a rough neighborhood in Brooklyn, but being a kid that liked school and was pretty good in school, and that wasn't necessarily celebrated in my neighborhood.
Right.
So these are all kind of more heartfelt kinds of sentiments that I wanted to put into the music. And it made me a better MC to me. I know it connected with people more, with my audience more, hearing me be that vulnerable and speak on these things in this way. So many people come up to me and telling me that these some of these songs
Hmm.
and the impact it had on them.
Hmm.
And so I know that I'm doing the right thing. And so I've always kind of stayed in that place with my writing ever since '01. I did it before '01, but '01 was where kind of things kind of
Kind of
really
clicked.
took a turn because the previous year, 2000, was when I was diagnosed with MS. And so I had a whole different perspective on life. And so I just started looking at life in a whole different way. And my writing really shifted after that diagnosis. And Disposable Arts was the first time that I really, really went deeper with the writing and with the introspection in my songs.
Is it hard to perform songs that are more personal when you're on stage?
I definitely have moments, certain songs, Son of Yvonne sometimes, depending on where I am. If the place I'm performing at is has some connection to my mother, like I performed in Brooklyn last year. I performed once in the DC area because my mother was living in Virginia at the time of her passing. So there's certain places where I might perform and those songs feel different and I get emotional. I fight it back best I can. Some people see it, some people don't really notice. But I don't want to break it out into a full cry in the middle of the song. But I just have those moments, and sometimes "Young Black Intelligent" is another song where I might see somebody in the audience that reminds me of me at that age, and then I immediately my brain starts to go. I start thinking about that pain because when I recorded that song, Young Black Intelligent, I actually had to stop recording, get composed because I broke down in the middle of the song. Like
Mm.
my partner Rich, who was also the engineer, he didn't know what was going on, but he just kind of he knew that it was a moment, and he just kind of let me have it. He didn't say a word. He just like let me. I walked away from the mic. Had to take a moment. I composed myself. And he's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm cool. I'm cool." It's just it was and because that's how impactful those words are to me in speaking the truth in my reality as a young person growing up in Brownsville who had these exact experiences in my neighborhood. And so, yeah, man, some of these songs they can really transport me someplace where I have to compose myself.
Yeah, it's been interesting because so many artists that I've listened to from when I started really listening to hip hop in the early '90s are still performing and still putting out music, and it's interesting to see the different paths the careers take. In some ways, I feel like we've kind of grown up together with them producing art and me consuming the art and sort of watching their evolution as artists. And battle rap has a place, and diss tracks
Sure,
and party rap has a place, but I've some of the artists that I really enjoy listening to tell the stories and get a little bit more personal, a little bit more reflective over time, which has been really neat to see. Speaking of getting a little bit older, I wanted to talk a little bit about you mentioned earlier that you have MS, but you also have a very high energy show. And I know you talk a little bit about it on your song Fight Song, which I was listening to the other day, but you are managing the disease and taking care of yourself. And has being on the mic been a part of that cycle of maintaining your health and staying focused both mentally and physically?
definitely. It's given me purpose. It's given me a reason to want to be healthy and be well. One of the things that people with MS sometimes suffer from is depression. And so music allows me to stay out of that even mindset. I avoid that mindset altogether through my music. I changed the way I ate. I changed my exercise regimen. I added an exercise regimen because I hadn't really worked out since high school, but I just started exercising more, working out more, eating differently. I over time cut out meat from my diet to the point where I was vegan for about 3 years, and then just recently started eating fish again. But these were all changes that I feel like helped my body to heal,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the right word, on a cellular level. And people that have had this disease for the amount of years that I've had it, which is 24 years,
Wow.
there are many people that less time than that are in wheelchairs or blind or are completely disabled. And so I feel like the changes that I made in my diet and lifestyle have played a huge part in me staying well. And the reason that I run around on stage like that is because in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know if I'm going to be able to run around on stages like this in next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, because this disease is really unpredictable, it could just take a turn. All of a sudden, your legs don't work anymore. So I try to utilize every moment on that stage like it might be my last, and I run around like a madman, just enjoying myself and making sure that I'm hopping and bouncing and let the audience see me moving. Man, that's why I'm up there doing it.
Let's end on that note, because I know some people complain when they get tired running around and bouncing around, and it's a privilege that not everybody has, and it's awesome to be a part of that when you're on stage, and it's awesome to hear a little bit of the story behind it and the motivation behind it. And we're all better for being a part of that. Ace, I want to thank you again for coming on today and sharing a little bit about your journey and letting people know what's special for you about being on the mic. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I look forward to hearing the final edits and seeing how this all comes out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of My Home is Special. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get future episodes automatically. You can go to myhomeisspecial.com to see the full project and sign up for email updates. Be sure to follow KBevPhoto on Instagram or go to kbevphoto.com to see what I'm snapping these days. There's a lot on both to explore. For now, this is Keith, aka KBev, signing off. Peace.